Hi, my name is Louise Zeitlin. I'm the director of the Oberlin College Community Music School. I'm a violist, and I also teach our string pedagogy class at the Oberlin Conservatory. So I spend quite a lot of time thinking and talking about teaching. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how our bow arm works. I like to think of the bow arm in terms of the joints that we have in our arm. So we have our shoulder, our elbow, our wrist, what we call the base joints, these top joints here in our hand, and then the middle joints of our bow hand. And each one of those joints works in its own way for different bow strokes. When we think about playing, we like to approach it from a very relaxed standpoint. And so I like to have my students do some exercises that gives them the feeling of what it feels like to be relaxed when we play. And so we work on both being relaxed, but also what's not good and how it feels when we're tightened. So maybe you might want to do this along with me. We're going to start just with a basic bow arm. Everything relaxed. I'm just flinging my arm. And I'm going to see what happens if I tighten my my shoulder. I think you could see as I tighten my shoulder, the motion slows down and it gets much more difficult. Now I'm going to go back to being relaxed. Okay, that did not feel good when I had my shoulder tightened. Now I'm going to work on my elbow. Okay, so I'm in a relaxed state and then a tightened state. And again, I'm not doing anything but tightening, but it just it won't move. Everything gets tight. And it affects everything. So any tightened joint will affect what happens throughout your bow hand. The other thing I like to do is to work on just what I call arm drops. We just take our bow arm and we just let it drop. You can see that my arm flings back and forth. Gravity's just letting it drop and everything's completely relaxed. So the first exercise is giving you the difference or having you feel the difference between being tight and loose. The second one is just having you be loose. So now I'm going to grab my viola and we're going to talk about the different joints and how they work. So the basis of the bow stroke is from our elbow. The opening and closing motion happens from our elbow. Pretty much everything we play. Staccato or legato happen from our elbow. Our shoulder is the string crossing mechanism. So our shoulder lifts and drops. And you can see it's the shoulder that's moving the arm up and down. So if I cross strings, A to D, G, I'm using my shoulder to get my bow hand and bow arm to that level. So if I go A string to C string, big, shoulder, shoulder lift, shoulder drop. So that's what our shoulder does. If we combine the shoulder and the the shoulder and the elbow, we can do what we call arpeggiation. So if I make a chord, you will see my elbow is opening and closing and my shoulder is going up and down for the string crossings. So there's a combination of the shoulder and the elbow. Our wrist doesn't do a whole lot except should stay loose. There's a difference in teaching. Some teachers teach the wrist coming up completely flat. Some teachers have the wrist bend a little bit so that the fingers are falling from the wrist. I tend to favor the latter, that the fingers are falling from the wrist so that my fingers are nice and loose. Again, if your wrist is tight, the bow stroke won't work. The fingers won't be loose. So now we move on to the fingers. I like to think of the fingers as a shock absorber in a car. So as we're driving down a really bumpy road, it's the shock absorbers that allow us to not bang our head on the ceiling or jerk crazily. So we want our fingers to absorb that shock. So if we do, let's say, a fast stroke, my elbow is moving the stroke, my fingers are reacting and absorbing the shock. So in the détaché stroke, our fingers are the reactors. They're staying loose and they're reacting to what the elbow is telling it to do. The collé stroke, which starts a stroke, which is a bite and a release stroke, is initiated by the fingers. So I use my fingers, I bite down a little bit, and then I let them go. And you can see my fingers going out and then in. So that's a stroke where the fingers are initiating the sound rather than helping and reacting to the bow arm. And then the last thing I'd like to talk about is not actually a muscle, but it's these, it's not actually a joint, it's the muscles at the back here. And so those back muscles are what allow us to do big chords. You can see that my whole bow arm, the whole wing, is happening from these back muscles. So those are the different parts that I think make different strokes and how they work. So I wish you the best of luck and have fun playing. Bye.